Someone once said that if you dream doesn't scare you, that means that it's not big enough of a dream. So we have a lot of dreams in life, and some of them we fulfill, some of them, especially big dreams, we say to ourselves, well, if I'm only able to, to have the right family, to be born to the right family, to the right, in the right environment, the right atmosphere, then I wish that I could get there, but, we're very scared that, we cannot get there. We look around us and we say we don't have the resources, we don't have the abilities, who's going to help you, don't just get into dreams that are eventually going to realize that you cannot, fulfill, and you just end up not even starting to act upon the dream and just give up. So when you do have a dream that is burning inside you, when you feel that this is what you should do, how do you start doing it? What's the secret to be able to fulfill these big dreams in our life? And we are not coming from the holiday of Shavuot, and we want to come down from Mount Sinai and get a lesson from Shavuot how to bring Mount Sinai into our day-to-day life. And one of that is, how do we fulfill big dreams, like the Jewish people have fulfilled that big dream, the end of the giving of the Torah. So, the Jewish people were enslaved in Egypt for 200 years, 210 years they were in Egypt. Out of that, the rabbis tell us that the enslavement, were more than 86 years, about 86 years. And they sunk into 49 levels of impurity, as we are told. And now Moshe Rabbeinu comes to them and tell them, you're going to be coming out of Egypt. You're going to be God's people, God's chosen nation. And you're going to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And your identity is going to completely change. You're no longer going to be slaves. You're no longer going to be just regular people. You're going to be God's people. And they left Egypt with, with this singing and being very excited, and with a great desire, great anticipation for that event, for the giving of the Torah. And was the time of the counting of the Omer between Pesach and Shavuot. They counted 49 days, every day getting up from their from another level of impurity, ascending to another level of purity, and they were looking forward, waiting to see when are they going to be God's people, when are they going to receive the Torah and become God's chosen nation. And then finally, as they're about to go in to the Sinai desert to receive this Torah, to receive to have this change in them, something happened, and they fell back. They were by a place called Refidim. Refidim, it says it's called Refidim because Sherafu Yede'em Midivre Torah, that the ends became soft, that they became afraid of the Torah. And it doesn't mean that they didn't want the Torah, but they just were full of doubts whether they could actually ready, whether they're able to fulfill these big dreams. Are they ready for that? Can they get there? And the rabbis tell us that this was the first day of Sivan, and when they reached the Sinai desert. And before the giving of the Torah on the 6th of Sivan, from the second day of Sivan, through the up to the 6th day, every day they were giving some type of preparation of things that they had to do in order to prepare for this moment, for this very special moment, for this very powerful moment. But it's interesting that all this preparation to the 6th day of Sivan began only on the 2nd day of Sivan, not on the 1st. What happened on the 1st day when they reached the Sinai desert? On Rosh Chodesh. And our rabbis tell us that Moshe did not tell him anything on this day because of the weakness traveling. And didn't tell him even a word about the giving of the Torah. He saw that they are tired from the way, and he said, today you'll rest, tomorrow we'll start. And this is something that doesn't make sense. Why? Because if you're waiting anxiously for something, imagine that you live in Israel and you one day receive a phone call saying that you have an uncle who was very wealthy, who passed away, left all estates and a will for you, and the attorney tells you, please come travel to the United States and come here, sign some papers, and I will tell you about this. I will give you the information. And he travels for 2 days. He goes, flies from Israel through Europe, through the United States. Finally reaches the attorney's office. He gets to the attorney's office and he tells him, listen, you had a long travel, you're tired today. Come back tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll talk. I'll give you all the information. It's obvious that it wouldn't make any sense. The guy doesn't care about being tired. He traveled for 2 days, but he already wants to know the information today. He's anxiously waiting for that. So, what does it mean that the Jewish people, when after 200 years of being in Egypt, now they're about to get ready for the giving of the Torah, and they're anxiously waiting for this day, counting every day from when they left. Now you want to tell me they are tired? What type of tiredness? Come on, give me a break. They were not tired. How can you be tired when you're actually waiting for something? So why is Moshe not telling him anything? So not only that, the distance between where they travel from to where they came to, was not a big distance. They parked in the Sinai, in a place called Afidim, and they were there Shabbos. Sunday they travel, and they reached the place Sunday. So they were already after the day of Shabbos rest. They were already, they had this Shabbos rest, and they're not traveling far, and they're anxiously waiting, so it doesn't matter, and Moshe doesn't tell them anything. Why? So obviously you must say that it's not a regular weakness that we're talking about. It's not a weakness of the physical weakness that they had. But it was much more than that. It was something different. It was something else. And this was an awareness, a problem in their awareness. And they were going through a deep change in attitude, in mind, in their awareness, and the way they look through themselves. And they had to work on that change that day. So that day there was nothing about Sinai. That day it was, let's just prepare, let's just focus, let's just have a change in your attitude, a change in your awareness, which we'll see soon. The problem with their attitude was that until then, Moshe told them, you're going to come, you're going to be God's nation, you're going to be God's people, you're going to have this big dream from being slaves, from being, a slave for so many years, and to become free. Not only becoming free, but becoming God's people. This is a completely, a change, an amazing change, a major change for them in their mind, in their attitude. How it says, you could take the Jew out of Egypt, but you can't take Egypt out of the Jew. So they got to take Egypt out of them and realize they are different people. Realize they are God's people. They are limited. Not only they're free, but they're not limited to nature anymore. So, at this place, Refidim, that's what happened to them. They thought, are we capable? Are we ready? Is it even possible to do? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Such a big dream, how would I merit to fulfill this dream? They started having doubts in themselves, in their abilities, in their capabilities. Saying to himself, just, over a month ago, we were slaves. We were involved with idolatry. 80% of the Jews who remained in Egypt didn't want to go to, to go out of Egypt, and died in Egypt. And now, even when they crossed the Red Sea, the angels told God and said, these people are idol worshippers. And these people are idol worshippers. The Jews and the Egyptians. So what's the difference? Why are you saving these? Why are you saving Jewish people and the Egyptians are drowning? So think about it. After this, they thought, the Jewish people thought to themselves, yes, we made some progress. We came out of our level of being enslaved of Egypt. We counting the days. We're getting closer. But from there to become, God's people, to become, a kingdom of priests, a holy nations, have this identity of the infinite, that infinite is part of them. It's not us. It's just impossible. So they had doubts. They doubted themselves whether this could be done. This change, they doubted whether you could take Egypt out of the Jew. And that's what happened in Refidim. That's why it's called Refidim, because they fell back, and their heart became soft. Can we do that? They became fearful. Are we able to do this? Are we capable of doing it? And it's too big on us. It's we can't. It's like you have a dream and you want to do it, and you're giving up before you even thinking about acting upon the dream, because you're thinking it's too big. I just can't do that. And this is the inner voices that comes and tells you, don't dream big, so you shouldn't be disappointed. Just and you can't even try. Don't even try. Don't even bother trying. And what happens when a person is weak? Right away, he meets with Amalek. Right away, Amalek came and fought against them. It says about Amalek that he fought against the weak people in them, Refidim, in the place called Refidim. Amalek is like a fly that is looking for a wound, and when you find the wood, it goes right in there, sucking the blood out of that wood, out of that wound. So Amalek come to the people that are weak and say, yes, you're right. You're even weaker than you think. You have no chance. You can't do it. Forget it. It's just not happening. And during this time, what happened was, during this war, Amalek told, God told Moshe Rabbeinu that, our rabbis tell us that when Moshe Rabbeinu lifted up his hands to the heaven, the Jewish people won the war, or winning the war. And when he put his hands down, the Jewish people were losing the war. So they had to put his hands up. They had to keep up his hands up, so he's not losing the war. So, what is the idea in there? Does Moshe's, the Talmud asks, does Moshe's hands engaging in war? Does Moshe ends doing the war? It's impossible. That when he puts his hands up, the Jewish people are winning the war. And so the rabbis tell us to know that when the Jewish people were looking up to heaven, looking up to Hashem, that's when they were winning the war. So we're not talking only about a physical aspect of raising Moshe's hands, but we're talking about where are the Jewish people are. Where is their identity? Where are you looking? If you're looking down at yourself, towards yourself, and you're looking at your limitations, your physical limitations, or are you looking up? Or are you able to look at the way God looks at you? God looks at you in a much bigger way. God brought you a soul, a godly soul, took you out of Egypt, and he says, come, follow him to receive the Torah. So they didn't see the potential that God saw in them. At the moment they were able to look up, to look towards Hashem, they didn't only see Hashem, but they saw the better version of themselves. And before they even came to Sinai, before they physically made the step to go to the Sinai desert, they had to make the step in their mind. And that's what they did in Refidim. And that's why the Torah tells us that they came to Refidim twice. It says the Jewish people, on the third month, for them leaving Egypt, the month of Sivan, when the Torah was giving, they came on that day, which was Rosh Chodesh, they came to the Sinai desert. And then it says again, they left Refidim and came to the Sinai desert. Why is it saying it twice? The Torah is not just using extra language, it's something. There's a reason why. Why is it saying it twice? The answer is that first they had to leave Egypt in their mind. They had to go into the Sinai desert in their awareness, in their mind. At the time when the war of Amalek in Refidim, when they lifted up their eyes and says, we are belonging to the Sinai mountain. Our identity is godly identity. The past failures do not describe who we are, and we are part of God. We are part of the infinite. No longer just regular human beings, not even slave. Not only slave, but not even regular human being. But we are slave of of Hashem. We are free people. We are God's people. Yes, if I look at myself physically, I don't have the capabilities, I don't have not have the resources, I may not be worthy, yes, but once they realize that this is something about God, something godly, then it's not about them anymore. It doesn't make a difference whether they are worthy or not, whether they can or not, because it's about Hashem. It's about the infinite. So, and that enabled them to start taking action and physically going from Refidim to the Sinai desert. And that's what he says. On that day, they came to the Sinai desert. I mean, the day that a person realizes, looking up to Hashem and realizes he's part of something much greater, he received the ability to fulfill the second part of the verse, which is make a physical act, do something about it. The moment we stop fearing and we believing and we know that we can, if we think we can't, we don't even start, we give up. And the Yisrael loves it. The inclination loves telling us that we can't, especially if we already said to us that we can't. He even comes and says further, oh yeah, you cannot do it, you're nobody, and you're not. And the moment you realize it's not about me, it's not whether I'm worthy or not, I have the resources or I don't, it's about Hashem. This is something much greater than that. And that enables us to do the small steps. And even though we don't realize, don't understand how these small steps connect me to the infinite. And that's what God says, it's a promise that God gave us. He said, Hashem should bless you in everything that you do. Meaning that if we dream big, then the small steps we are taking will lead us to much greater places. So now, we're going back to the month of Sivan. When they came, when they traveled, Moshe didn't speak to them because they were weak from the travel. It's not that they were weak from the travel. It's the idea is that on that day they had to weaken these voices that tell them that you can't, and that you're not able to, that you belong to a person you were in the past. That day they have to say, no, we are no longer belong. The past is the past. We leave the past behind. We are no longer the past. We don't belong to the past. And that's why Moshe tell them, today we're not talking about anything, any action that are leading to the giving of the Torah, any preparation. Today is just to realize the dream, to start looking at the way God's look at you, and stop looking us at the way that nature looks at us. Stop defining us by nature, define us by God. So nature doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference. And when we realize that, when we really believe in this dream, then we can take the acts to do it, and Hashem will get us there with His help, give us much more than we could do on our own. So that is the day that they were able to do this change in their attitude, in their mind, and that's why Moshe said, on this day we're not going to do anything as a physical, spiritual preparation, the giving of the Torah. Today is just an awareness change. It's just believing in the dream and understanding what you're about to go into, and weakening all these other voices that are trying to weaken you and said that you can't. And this is really also the story of Ruth, the Moabite, that she came from a place where she lost her husband. Her mother-in-law, Naomi, lost her husband and lost her 2 sons, and she was left with two daughter-in-laws. One was Orpah, and the other one was Ruth. And I'm not going to go through the whole story, but her husband, Elimelech, left Israel during the famine land so they shouldn't consume his money and everything he has. And his sons married the daughters of Moab, and he died and his sons died. And the only one was left was Naomi with her 2 daughter-in-laws. And Naomi turned to them and said to them, you guys don't come with me. You guys are daughters of a king. You guys go have a good life. I'm going back to Israel. But you don't live a life of poverty. You don't live a life of suffering. You just go back. So one of the daughter-in-law, Orpah, she indeed, she walked 40 steps and then she went back and she left. She later on became the mother of Goliath, who King David fought against and won. Ruth never dreamed that King David would be a descendant of her, that will come from her. Because she had these big dreams, but she had nothing. She told her mother-in-law, Naomi, I'm going with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Whatever you come, I will come. Whatever you're poor, I'm poor. Whatever you eat, I eat. Your God is my God. Whatever whatever you will bury, I'll be buried. And she went with her. And she sacrificed from herself and herself the comfortable life she could have just because she believed in the dream of being Jewish. And she was able to not only have King David descendants from her, it says she was also able to see his son, King Solomon, ruling and becoming the king and building the temple. And that's all despite coming from Moab, despite coming from a place where she realized that there's nothing in that place. That people may not even accept her. She comes to convert because she's from the nation of Moabite, and the Moabite nation were not able to. There was a problem with the Moabite nation, so she knew that there's even a risk that she's not going to be accepted. But she had this dream. She believed she could connect to God, and she ended up having a long life, seeing King Solomon ruling, and even though she's coming from Moab, from the lowest place, she was able to reach the highest place in becoming the great grandmother of King David. So the lesson that it gives us as we're coming from Shavuot, we're coming from the holiday of the Torah, not to look at past failures, dream big. And when you have these voices speaking, you say, no, you can't, lift up our eyes to Hashem and realize that Hashem is infinite. We are part of the infinite, and we can make it happen, and we will make it happen. And with the help of Hashem, we'll get there. And same thing about the coming of Mashiach. We have to dream about Mashiach. We have to dream about the redemption and realize that Mashiach will come. It's going to happen. And we should keep on dreaming on that. And we should keep on doing one more mitzvah, one more small act until we actually reach Mashiach. L'chaim, l'chaim.